Good morning, and welcome to our latest session of But First Plants. So this morning we're going to be, hey, good morning, continuing talking about blending different plants together. And the blend we're talking about this morning is pretty amazing and one of my all-time favorites. And I say that in all seriousness, because I know I have a lot of favorites, but this one was one of my first loves. So this morning we're going to be looking at a blend of tangerine, orange, ylang, patchouli, and blue tansy. So let's kind of look at these individual components and see what we can find out about each one before we talk about mixing them all together. So tangerine, of course, is a variety of mandarin orange, native to Southeast Asia, and it has been cultivated for over 3,000 years in Japan and Asia, but only arrived in the U.S. in the mid-1800s. And it actually started in New Orleans from the Italian consul there. He actually brought tangerines over, and from there, they became a hit and moved to Florida, and now everybody knows about tangerines. But of course, the fruit is abundant in vitamin C, just like most citrus, while the oil from the peel is actually a significant ingredient in several signature ingredient in several orange liqueurs, which I thought was fascinating. But the ancient Chinese actually used tangerine peel to treat things like digestive disorders, and it was trusted to increase the flow of liquids throughout the body, which is fascinating. It was also used in various medications for treating things like morning sickness, gout, and sexual problems in men, which I did not know. But the fragrance of tangerine promotes things like happiness, calming, and it helps with anxiety and nervousness. Now, I love diffusing tangerine. It's the citrus oils to me all smell very bright and sunshiny, and tangerine is one of my favorites, so I do like to diffuse tangerine. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is orange, which of course is related to tangerine, but oranges first originated in India or in China, not really sure which. However, they have been found written about in ancient texts as far back as 2200 BC. So oranges have been around for quite a while. And of course, they are also very high in vitamin C, very characteristic of citrus. They were brought to the Americas by Christopher Columbus. So they have been in the States and the Americas for quite a while. But the fragrance of orange is very uplifting and antidepressant. In fact, I call orange my happy oil, and I use it every single day. And it helps my mood. So I love orange. So is it any wonder that this blend that contains both orange and tangerine is one of my favorites? All right, so the next component of this blend that we'll look at is ylang, which is a flower. In fact, it means flower of flowers. But these particular flowers were used to cover the beds of newlyweds on their wedding night. So it was considered a bit of an aphrodisiac. So if you've ever heard of that with ylang, that is why. However, it's also been traditionally used in hair formulas to produce a thick, shiny, lustrous hair. So very different use there from the first one. It was also in the Philippines. Healers have used the oil of In the Philippines, healers have used the oil of the ylang flower in ointments to treat things like cuts, burns, insect and snake bites. So like I said, various uses. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was used to treat things like malaria and typhus and intestinal infections. So it's had a variety of uses throughout its history, but the fragrance of ylang ylang is extremely relaxing. It helps combat anger and low self-esteem. It increases the focus of the thoughts. It filters out negative energy, and it restores confidence and peace. So it is a beautiful, beautiful oil. Ylang ylang is one, when I first smelled it, it was like instant love. But my sister, who doesn't care for it at all. So, different people are attracted to different smells, and because our bodies have different needs. But patchouli is, of course, a component that we have discussed in a previous episode of But First Plants. But I do want to mention the fragrance of patchouli is considered a relaxant that clarifies thought, and it allows the discarding of things like jealousies, obsessions, and insecurities, which is amazing because I don't care for the smell of patchouli at all by itself, but I do like it in certain blends. And blue tansy is another one we have already discussed in a previous episode of But First Plants. But the smell of blue tansy is considered relaxing. So when you combine all of these beautiful components, you get peace and calming. So it's kind of funny. This was actually my very first oil, and it didn't even come in my kit, or well, it kind of did. I had a tiny little sample when I first got my oils of this one, and it was like, oh, I love that so much. I wish I had a bottle of it, but I just had like a tiny little packet with a drop or two in it to try, and I fell in love the first time I smelled it. But and I can now I can see why, because I adore the citrus, the tangerine, and the orange, and the ylang ylang. Those are all my favorite smells, and then combined together, and it's just wonderful. So let me go ahead and tell you a little story about peace and calming and my daughter. So a few months ago, we were going through a growth spurt. My little girl is now 5. And if you, I'm sure you have been around kids and seen them just melt down over nothing. Well, when we hit growth spurts, we are more prone to meltdowns. And I mean just full-blown tears, the whole 9 yards. So my husband had come home one afternoon after work, and he could tell I was just done. It had been a day and I was just done. So he looked at me, he's like, how about I take the kids outside and we'll go play outside? I'm like, thank you. And so he took the kids out, and it wasn't long afterwards that he came back in the house and said, she's melting. What should I give her? And I'm like, what happened? And he looked at me and he's like, her brother touched her dirt or her tool or something. They were out playing in the garden, and basically whatever had happened, it was not as according to life as it should have been. And I mean, she just was completely upset, in tears, bawling her little eyes out. It was bad. So I grabbed the PNC, Peace and Calming, and went outside, and I immediately just put some on her, and I'm like, okay, baby, take a deep breath. Deep breath. Tell mama what happened. And I'm like, does that smell good? Yeah, it smells good. And I mean, yeah, mama, it smells good. We're going through that, and then we come back in the house, and she's breathing and trying to tell me what had happened. And I mean, I'm not going to say it was like instant because it wasn't, but within a couple of minutes, she was starting to calm down and she looked at me. She's like, Mommy, I need some more oil. I'm like, okay. So I gave her a little bit more and she's, oh, Mommy, that smells so good. And, you know, she had just calmed down within a few minutes, which was a lot less than meltdowns normally last. So this I don't run out of. I keep it on hand because I have young children. My kids are 4 and 5, and we run into lots of meltdowns. I like to diffuse this one at night to help my little girl sleep. If we've had a really melty day, I'll make sure and put this in her diffuser at nighttime. It helps her sleep. And, you know, if the kids are having a rough day and getting on each other's nerves, out comes the peace and calming, and we just diffuse throughout the whole house. So like I said, this is one of my favorites that I do not run out of, and I highly recommend trying it. Anyway, it's been about 11 minutes now, so this is about as long as I wanted these videos to last. I hope you have a great morning, that you learned some interesting things, and that you know, if you have some peace and calming sitting in a box, pull it out and use it. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.